The Pomodoro technique isn't a focus hack, and that's exactly why it fails most people. There's one thing you need to do before you ever set a timer, and it changes everything. I wish I'd known this before I wasted weeks doing it wrong. But before we dive in, let's rewind to the beginning. This is important. How did this all start? The Pomodoro technique was invented by an Italian student named Francesco Cirillo. In the late 1980s, he was struggling to study. He kept getting distracted, couldn't focus, procrastinated endlessly. So he grabbed a little tomato-shaped kitchen timer. Pomodoro actually means tomato in Italian, and decided to set it for 25 minutes. He told himself, "Studierò solo per un pomodoro." I'll just study for one tomato. I hope my Italian accent's not too bad. That's it. He didn't create a focus system. He created a starting system. It wasn't about squeezing the productivity out of every single minute. It was about lowering the barrier to the beginning, to getting started. It's the same psychology as saying, I'll just go for a 5-minute jog. Jog me. No. Once you start, you often keep going. But here's where things went wrong. People took that simple, beginner-friendly system, I'm not sure if you call it system, but anyway, and started applying it to everything. Deep thinking, creative work, complex design, coding. And that's like taking a tricycle onto a racetrack. Yeah, it'll go round, but it's not going to be very effective. The real issue is that Pomodoro assumes all work is equal, that everything we do takes the same kind of focus and same kind of energy, and it doesn't. Not even close. So think about your day. You might start with shallow tasks, answering emails, scheduling meetings, checking updates. That kind of work is reactive. It doesn't demand long focus. 25 minutes is plenty. You can slot it between other things without breaking flow. Then there's medium level work, things like reviewing a document, writing a section of a report, or refactoring a bit of code. That needs more focus, but it still comes in chunks. Here you might do better with 45 minutes on and 10 minutes off. And then there's deep work, designing a new system, solving a complex problem, writing something from scratch, doing real creative thinking. This kind of work takes a long warm-up time. You don't just get into it, sit down after 2 minutes and start writing away. You get into flow after 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, even 20 minutes just to settle your mind. So if your timer rings at 25 minutes and you just got into writing, it's your brain waking up and saying, oh, congratulations, you've built a system that interrupts itself. And that's the problem. Pomodoro, in its default form, punishes depth and rewards surface activity. You'll feel productive because you're ticking off short bursts, but you're actually stopping yourself from doing real work, real good work, your best work. Here's the truth. There is no universal right length for Pomodoro. The correct duration depends entirely on the type of work and on you. So let's break that down. If you're doing admin work, small, repetitive, quick tasks, 25 minutes on and 5 minutes off works perfectly. You're dealing with interruptions anyway. You're not trying to get into deep flow, just short sprints. Keep your energy up and prevent boredom. Now, if you're going to be creative or analytical, try 45 minutes on and 10 minutes off. That'll give your brain time to settle in and hit that flow, and then you'll be able to come out of it more gently. And if you're doing deep, serious work, something like a system design or maybe novel, maybe you're thinking of writing the next great American novel, complex algorithm thinking, and that goes on for 90 minutes of focus and 15 minutes off. That matches your body's natural attention rhythm called the ultradian cycle. Our brain tends to focus in waves about 90 minutes, a bit like the sleep cycle. When your brain is working for 90 minutes, it'll dip. If you end your session right before that dip, you'll naturally feel ready for a break and not yanked out by the timer after 25 minutes and you've only done 5 minutes real work. So if 25 minutes feels too short, it's not that you're failing at Pomodoro. It's that the Pomodoro is failing to match the task that you're doing and to match you, how you work. So why does this 25-minute block even work for some people? Because for beginners or anyone struggling with procrastination, 25 minutes is psychologically manageable. It's not a full 30 minutes, not a full half an hour. It's 25 minutes. It's short enough that your brain doesn't resist. You can trick yourself into starting, and that's why it's brilliant for students or anyone trying to build momentum. But once you've trained your focus muscle, you don't need training wheels. You need a bigger road. Think of the Pomodoro technique as building scaffolding. It helps you build the habit of focus. But once that structure is up, you can remove it and still keep working at a higher level. The big thing that most people get wrong about Pomodoro is they focus only on the timer, not the review. Francesco Cirillo didn't just set a timer and work. He kept notes. He tracked what distracted him. He counted how many Pomodoros each task took. And he looked at the data. The timer wasn't the tool. In the end, it was a feedback loop. He used it to notice patterns. Why did this session feel hard? Why did that one fly by? Over time, he adjusted. And that's the real secret of Pomodoro. It isn't about 25-minute sprints. It's about reflection. We've kept the timer and ditched the learning process. Now, if you bring that back, you can turn Pomodoro into something much more powerful. And here's how to. After each session, write down 1 or 2 quick notes. What distracted you? What part of the work was the hardest? How was your energy? And at the end of the week, look for patterns. You might find that your 25-minute blocks are too short for creative work, or that your 90 minutes just go stale after lunch, that you can't keep going for a full 90 minutes. And that's when you start entering your own focus system. Here's a simple way to build one. Step 1, classify your tasks, shallow, medium, or deep. Step 2, assign experimental timings. Maybe 25-5 for shallow, 45-10 for medium, and 90 minutes followed by a 15-minute break for deep. Step 3, measure how you feel after each one. Not just how much you did, but how much real progress you think you made. Step 4, the right timing is the one that keeps you moving without draining you. And once you've done this for a week, you'll have your own personal productivity rhythm. You'll start to notice your natural focus patterns. Maybe you're sharpest mid-morning and crash mid-afternoon. You can then plan your deep work when your brain is actually capable of it. I know my boss, he used to work his best stuff between 6 and 9 p.m. God knows how he did it. By that time, I'm crashing. In other words, stop obeying the timer. Start listening to your brain. Now let's go even deeper if I can. There are a few ways to make the technique work better, and regardless of any timing. 8:30 to 8:55 emails, 9 to 10:15, write that report summary. 10:30 to 12, again write your report summary. There's a 15-minute break in there. 12:15 to 1300, code review. 13:30 to 14:15, emails. 14:25 to 14:50, schedule meetings, check-in updates. These are all simple things for the afternoon. That's how I would do it. 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, a meeting, and then 4:15 to 5, write up meeting notes. 5 to 5:25, plan for tomorrow. This prevents you from avoiding the hard investigative work and just doing easy triages all day. You commit to the hard stuff when you have the willpower, in the morning. First, create a pre-focus ritual before each workday. Block, clear your desk, silence notifications, close unnecessary tabs, and define one specific task. Write the design summary, not work on the report. The clarity is half the battle. Second, don't break mid-flow just because the timer says so. If you're in the middle of a thought, finish it. Timer is a guide, it's not your drill sergeant. A 30-second overshoot won't ruin your day, but cutting your flow, well, that probably will. Third, use breaks properly. Don't scroll social media. Don't check messages. You're just swapping one kind of stimulation for another. You need to relax during that break. Get up, stretch, look out the window, and breathe. Let your mind actually rest. That's how you reset attention. Fourth, track cognitive fatigue. You might start the day able to handle 90-minute sessions, but by late afternoon, you could be down to 30, and that's normal. Adjust the cycle. Don't force it. And fifth, work with your body, not against it. Everyone has a natural rhythm. Times of the day when you're most alert and most creative. Pomodoro works best when it syncs with that rhythm. So instead of saying, I'll do 8 Pomodoros today, try saying, I'll do 2 deep cycles when my energy is really peaking, and I'll be going on to lighter ones, shorter ones, 45, 50 minutes, whatever you want to use, or 25 minutes. This way you'll get more done, it'll feel less like a fight. At this point, you might be wondering, so, should I even bother with Pomodoro at all? Well, yeah, I found Pomodoro really useful. It's a great training tool for a start, especially if you struggle to start or stay consistent. But it's not a religion, and you're not supposed to worship the 25-minute rule. You're just supposed to use it as a baseline, something to experiment from. I use it once in a while, especially after an illness. I often struggle to get back into serious writing, so I set myself a 25-minute just to get going. And if I'm fully recovered, or recovered enough to get focused, I'll power through and carry on working until I get to a natural break. If the effects of the flu are still lingering and my brain hasn't had time to focus, I'll take a break to work on small admin tasks. The goal isn't about becoming better at following a timer. The goal is just about becoming better at focusing, getting started and getting going. And here are the non-negotiable principles that make this system work. Interruptions are inevitable. Your reaction isn't. When you are interrupted by a colleague or production alert, you don't just pause the timer, you ritualize the context switch. Before you address the interruption, you must spend 60 seconds writing down a context dump in a text file. I was working on X, I just figured out Y, and my next step was Z. It takes a minute, but it saves you 15 when you return. Quick tip, the rubber duck break. If you haven't heard of this, this is quite a good one. If you hit a wall during an investigation Pomodoro and completely stuck, your break becomes a rubber duck session. You must explain the problem out loud to an inanimate object, or perhaps your pet, during your break. The act of vocalizing the problem often reveals a solution before the break is even over. Let's recap what's been covered. Pomodoro wasn't invented to maximize deep work, it was invented to overcome procrastination. If you use it rigidly for complex work, it can actually break your flow. Different kinds of tasks need different lengths of focus. Shallow tasks thrive in short bursts. Deep tasks need long, uninterrupted stretches. The magic isn't in the timer, it's in the reflection afterwards. Track what breaks your focus, when your energy peaks, which timing suits you best. And then engineer your own rhythm around that data. If you treat Pomodoro as a learning system instead of a timing system, it becomes something far more powerful. So the next time you set that timer, don't ask, can I make it to 25 minutes? Ask, what kind of focus does this task deserve? If you want to see how to implement this hour by hour, I've got a video on time blocking. It walks you through setting it up in your calendar. There's a step by step. See you.